Ko waita maunga e tū maraira, ko tararua, ko tararua. Ko waita maunga e tū maraira, ko ototahi, ko ototahi. Nuku nuku mai, niki niki mai. Nuku nuku mai, niki niki mai, ke taka tuara ke kini ai ke kiki hei ke kiki ha, ti hei Māori ora. Tēnā koutou katoa, na mihi nui ki a koutou, he mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa. Uri ahau nōna waka i rua, ko Ngāti Pākehā me Tākatimu, ko Ngāti Kahungunu me Ngāta iwi ngā iwi. Ko Arumahanga Te Awa, ko Rangatūmau Te Maunga, ko Wārapa Te Moana, ko Tim Fowler tōku ingoa. Ko te pau whakahaere o te amarangi mātou rangamatua nō reira tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks, Mike. And I just wanted to say I'm really stoked just to be following on from Brett. Just felt compelled to say, despite being in Christchurch, that University of Canterbury is, especially since the rebuild of the campus since 2011, where I think they spent the better part of $1.2 billion rebuilding the place. Not just rebuilding buildings, but changing the way they've gone about doing things. My observation, especially as a Wellingtonian, is that they have become pretty much the benchmark standard for learner success in New Zealand, and also a very, very popular place for North Islanders to come down and do their qualifications. So congratulations to them, and I think raising the bar for all of us, which is fantastic. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here today, and thanks to the CATE organisation for the partnership opportunity you provide and the leadership that you also provide in the careers space. It's an exciting time for us in the Tertiary Education Commission and the tertiary system, especially to be talking about careers. There are some very significant developments going on that we're leading and contributing to. I want to walk you through some of the things that we're doing with the new careers strategy, as Mike has intimated already, our work on Taha 2, which will eventually replace the careers website, and of course our Inspiring the Future program. We've had a number of presentations over the last few days around the conference, and so I hope you've been able to get along to some of those, or at least one of them, and if not, there is still time to visit our Taha 2 booth and chat with the team. First, I did want to talk a little bit about our role at the Tertiary Education Commission and about our role in the careers system. In the first instance, we are your and the government's investor in tertiary education. We spend very carefully $4 billion of your taxpayer money every year on the tertiary education system. We fund around about 2/3 of the cost of that system, the other third being paid for by student tuition fees and commercial research, mostly at the universities. In short, we're the major funder of universities, Te Pūkenga, the Wānanga, more than 200 private training providers and many schools. We cover degrees, postgraduate qualifications, sub-degree vocational education and training, including partnerships. But we also administer and fund a lot of teaching around foundation level education, so youth guarantee, adult and community education, and of course the funding of gateway and trades academies. 42 funds. Crazy number, but 42 funds. And of course we do administer the fees-free program, which is important to understand when recommending study options. What does all of that have to do with careers, you might ask? Well, in 2017, TC merged with Careers New Zealand, meaning we operate the Careers New Zealand website, which I expect many of you are familiar with. This is the primary tool used by the government to fulfil its responsibilities to provide career information to the public. And it's a critical and much used career tool. So far this year, in what are we, sort of mid to late November, it's had 2.7 million users and 4.3 million sessions. In short, it's one of the most trafficked websites in New Zealand. And if you compare that with the likes of our fees-free website, which of course lots of students head to at this time of the year, that only has about 13% of the volume of that careers site. They have around 360,000 visits, users per year. The largest user group being 25 to 30-year-olds, but of course people from all ages use that site. So we have an important role in the system from an information perspective, but our interest is really much broader. I don't think we can fund tertiary education effectively and efficiently if we don't think about the career implications of that funding. There are many agencies involved in careers information and advice, not least schools, tertiary education organisations, MB, Ministry for Business, Innovation and Employment, the Ministry of Education and, of course, Ministry of Social Development, but there has been no overall owner of that careers strategy. This is changing, and I'm pleased to say that TEC is at the forefront of that, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But it's also, I think, important to also understand the structural changes that are going on in the tertiary education system because they're aimed at improving options and outcomes for those moving from school to further study, be it academic or work-based. So with that in mind, I did want to mention the reform of vocational education, or as it's referred to, get that clicker working, ROVE. ROVE has changed the way we are doing vocational education in this country, and as careers professionals, it's really important that you understand what is going on and the pathways it can offer various learners. The first, of course, is the creation of a single National Institute of Skills and Technology, Te Pūkenga, and it has been formed out of the 16 regional polytechs and technical institutes, combined with the industry training organisations that run apprenticeships and industry training. Merging them into a single organisation means resources can be applied where most needed and teaching can be more flexible. Te Pūkenga is now simply the largest tertiary education organisation in the country with 250,000 learners and 12,000 staff. It's also taken on responsibility for arranging apprenticeships and work-based training. The aim is that it's a regional network combined with face-to-face delivery with the Open Polytechnics online delivery, and the work connections means it's going to be able to support learners in a consistent and seamless way to move between different forms of training. Now look, let's be clear and let's be absolutely honest, they've had a bit of a rocky start. But the potential for Te Pūkenga is massive. And I think I know you've heard from Pete Winder, the Acting Chief Executive this week, and I must say I have real confidence that he is now leading the change that is required at Te Pūkenga that will see it really succeed. In addition, skills planning and training standards are now the responsibility of 6 workforce development councils. This is possibly one of the key changes. A key reason for the change was that training was getting out of touch with the needs of what industry and employers actually want. Now, employers through the WDCs determine what is going to be taught and how it's going to be delivered to ensure that the training delivers what is needed by those industries. This changes things a lot from the old days where obviously there's business advisory groups that have been informing providers, but at the end of the day, providers really just delivered what they thought was right. And that's led to that divergence. So for you as careers advisors and counsellors, the new system and Te Pūkenga will offer many more options for vocational study that you can put to your students. Te Pūkenga are not the only provider, as some industries are retraining and their own training function. So it's going to be important to be aware of who's delivering what in the new system. The range of qualifications and ways to access them should mean that there is an interesting and fulfilling study and career pathway for those seeking a vocational education. All fine words, but look, let's be really clear on the numbers. So I'm pleased to tell you that these changes are already bearing fruit. We can now see the single largest number of apprentices in the New Zealand system ever, 78,000 apprentices in New Zealand at the moment, up 86% since 2017, and also really pleasing, the number of female apprentices now 18%, up from 12% just in the last 3 years. So I think also the Inland Revenue data will tell you that apart from at all stages in somebody's career, up until the end of their career and lifetime earnings, actually a trade will earn you more than a degree. So I'd like to see and support the ongoing development of the vocational training sector, and advice not just being focused on what I think parents at least think traditionally is the right thing to do, which is go to university. However, one of the challenges we face in society is creating and maintaining a skilled workforce. The demographics of the country is changing, and we need to bring more people into the tertiary system from groups that have struggled in it or have previously never participated in it at all. One issue is that many children have limited horizons, not because they lack ability or are disinterested, but because they often don't just know about the rich choices available to them. Our research has showed that young children mainly aspire to one of only 9 career areas, when we know there are literally hundreds more. But it's hard to be what you can't see. So we've developed a program called Inspiring the Future. It's a New Zealandised version of something developed in the UK to address those sorts of issues. Inspiring the Future brings people with broad experience and careers into schools to talk about their life and career journeys. The aim is to show kids people like them doing the things that they have perhaps never considered. By doing so, we hope we can inspire kids to open their eyes to possibilities ahead of them. We recognise that to build a useful Inspiring the Future event, it must be, especially for teachers, it must be a simple, straightforward process for teachers and must directly connect to the curriculum. So we've created a tech platform and support materials that help schools easily set up an event effectively straight out of the box. I encourage you to think about it for your school and for you as individuals to also consider being a role model yourself to support your local community. Building a resilient workforce and encouraging students into a wide variety of careers is not going to be enough by itself. We also must improve student/learner outcomes. So a major priority for the Tertiary Education Commission going forward is what we call learner success. We know success is uneven in a number of ways. 2/3 of non-Māori, non-Pacifica students complete a qualification, roughly 63%, 64% in degree level study. But for Māori and Pacifica, it's barely 50%, and at some universities, it's actually in the low 30s. That's not acceptable. To fix it, we are strongly incentivising all tertiary education organisations, but particularly the universities and Te Pukenga, to focus on success for those who have been previously underserved. By underserved, I mean Māori, I mean Pacifica, disabled, including neurodivergent learners, and those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And by success, we mean parity of qualification completions for all of these groups. The gaps, as you can see, at present are very significant. That's bad for the individuals, and it's going to be a real problem for the country if it continues to be unaddressed. We're providing a research-tested framework, tools, and funding incentives and disincentives to help institutions move on this. We've made it clear to all universities that we will not fund their ongoing growth in student enrolments without a university-wide commitment to acting and us seeing significant movement towards achieving parity of outcomes. What that means for you is that tertiary education organisations will be offering a lot more for, support for learners. Whole programs, systems and departments have been developed to support learner success, and as I commented earlier, UC is a leader in this activity. We know change can happen with the right tools and approach. We've seen it in the United States, and I've got a slide up here from the Georgia State University, which we have very deeply researched and utilised the learnings out of that process there to, in the New Zealand context, to try and provide the framework and the management tools that can make this change. You can see from here, I can't see down there because it's miles away, my eyes can't do that well, but you can see from here the massive gaps that they had between Hispanic and black and white students in relation to this institution. 45,000 students, by the way, at Georgia State University in downtown Atlanta. And over the space of more recently, the last 9 years, they have actually got Hispanic and black students actually performing better than their white students. But all up at a really high acceptable level. That's possible, that's doable, and it's our goal. We know change can happen with the right tools and approach. As you can see here, you'll be able to assure a capable but perhaps nervous learner, or maybe a first and family learner, or one with special needs, that yes, tertiary education is an option for them, a place where they'll be supported to succeed. They will still have to work, but there will be more flexibility in accommodating the way they work best. So in that environment, you can see that raising the bar on careers planning is going to be pretty darn important. Taha 2 is the new online careers planning solution that we are developing. It's expected that we're going to be launching it in schools in early 2024. It is, as the tech folks call, the next generation of the careers.govtnz website with totally new tools, content and functions. It is going to be a step change in content and leverages TEC's access to major government databases. As an example, we're curating an entirely new New Zealand-specific occupations database with more than 800 roles within it, including for the first time specific roles from the Māori economy. This will be a distinctive and the definitive jobs database in New Zealand, and we're already having other government agencies seeking to use it to underpin their own work. Currently, there is no free, data-driven, culturally affirming, high-quality careers planning solution for learners, workers and their whānau and supporters. Taha 2 is designed to address that gap. So it's not just targeted at high school students. Taha 2 will give New Zealanders of all ages the information on education, training and career planning throughout their lives whenever they may need it. It is universal and not limited to specific learning pathways, industries or sectors. We'll have new features combining tools for careers planning and, of course, quality data. So Taha 2 will support teachers and careers advisors with career discussions and planning tools. The existing careers website, the current careers resource, has served us really well for many years. And once live, Taha 2 will initially run in parallel to it, and then will eventually decommission the old site. Taha 2 has been developed in an incremental delivery model with new features and enhancements being rolled out every 3 months. It's a massive, massive task for us, but one we're very excited about. And we're bringing together data sets that will allow users to connect qualifications with jobs and with NCA subjects and the like in a way that has not been attempted before. Clearly, we'll be doing lots of user testing at each stage of the development process. We have invited a group of careers practitioners to review Taha 2 on the way through already and provide their insights and feedback on how people will browse, navigate and use the service. And I know many of you have taken part in the Taha 2 workshops this week, so thank you for your input and we look forward to sharing the tool with you in the coming months. There are some practical things, though, at TEC that we're doing to shift the dial. So those are some of the things that we're doing to shift the dial on careers at TEC. But what concerned a range of you in the sector was a lack of direction and ownership. I know CATE and CDANS have been pushing for a refresh of the National Careers Strategy to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the careers system itself. While lots of things might have been going on across a range of organisations, and there was a strategy, that was actually quite outdated and there was no real ownership, so things had got a little fragmented. We've also had, you may have noticed, some major economic and social changes going on that we think need to be responded to. So last year we were tasked with the job of leading a strategy refresh, and we went into it with the objective to strengthen and future-proof the careers system. To support the system and to help people make better careers decisions and to support people to grow the skills and capability needed now and in the future. So the career system may have multiple entry points, but they should all provide a consistent experience. It also has to align with the government priorities such as, and I really do regret having to roll out 4- and 3-letter acronyms from the education system, but it does have to align with the NELP, the National Education Learning Priorities System, the NELP, and for my friends in tertiary, the TESS, the Tertiary Education Strategy. All of these things need to come together. We engage widely across the careers system stakeholders, including with Māori, government agencies, representatives of underserved communities, industry, the education sector, learners, and very significantly, careers practitioners and their peak bodies. I know there was a more detailed presentation on the strategy yesterday, but I wanted to briefly just walk you through some of the highlights of the strategy. As you can see from the vision and mission, we have some real ambition for the system and the important role that careers information and advice plays. You can see that the approach is based on a lifetime of activity rather than focused on points in time. In delivering the strategy, we have 3 focus areas: strengthening connections, growing quality careers support, and ensuring equitable access. What this means is that you'll be seeing a lot more and hearing a lot more from TEC about careers in the coming months as we undertake that coordination role for the strategy's implementation. I would raise, though, that it is actually only a coordination role. We're a little baby organisation with some behemoth-sized organisations that also do work in this space. So our job really is to try and get our arms around the whole thing and bring folks together to maximise the value that every organisation brings. We have created a dedicated careers group within the Tertiary Education Commission in response to the strategy and our role in it, and now they're going to be engaging more with the advisory sector and with business and educators. Taha 2 is going to be a critical tool that team will be delivering in the second focus area on the slide. It will support your advisory role with the greater depth of information, more diversity of roles, and a more holistic career view. And to ensure we understand what issues individuals and communities face, as well as the careers workforce, we will have to talk to a range of people regularly so that the system can respond. And I think that's the thing what we're trying to build in here is this ongoing process of the system learning, not just people learning, but the system learning and evolving and changing as quickly as the change is going on around us. So I'm pleased to say you'll be seeing a lot more of us on the careers side. I started out this session by saying it's an exciting time in careers, and I hope you can see why. It's something I'm really passionate about, and I know that the folks that have been here are absolutely really revved up about the opportunity that it provides. You are careers professionals and leaders to young people and not so young people, and you make a significant commitment to the future of others. So can I just thank you for the work that you do. I hope you also are a little bit excited about the changes that you're seeing and the opportunities that they're going to create. And I hope you've had a great week this week. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Cheers. If there are any. Do you have any questions? Okay, right here. I thought you were going to let me off, Jeremy.
I just want to ask, is this working? Yeah. I just want to ask a question with my PTE hat on and my ITENS board member hat on. Can you make a comment about the role of PTEs in the new system? Thanks, Tim.
I won't repeat my ITENS speech, Jeremy, but can Just for interest's sake, how many folks from PTEs here today? Oh wow, awesome, great. So I mentioned PTEs briefly in here, but I probably have for the folks wearing red have called out University of Canterbury a little bit. But I just wanted to and Jeremy, thank you for the question, because PTEs form a particularly important part of not just the old system, but especially where the new system is going. We rely upon PTEs to perform a role where they fill gaps, they're nimble, they're fast, they're agile and are able to change and focus in on the new opportunities. And in that context, the amount of funding that has gone on into the private training system over the course of the last, I think it's 8 years, has almost doubled. So we're up around the sort of $450 million mark, which is a very significant increase, which we're really, really proud of. One of the things that, of course, we're looking forward to seeing, and we've especially in the vocational space, is PTEs adjusting to the new system, and that means looking for opportunities in the vocational space. Now, one of the things I would say here is if you're in that category and are looking for opportunities, the thing to do is not try and replicate what has been done elsewhere. It is looking for gaps in the market. It is looking for areas that are underprovided or in localities that are underprovided for. We'd be really happy to have a conversation with you about that. I'll be here for much of today, and if you want to have a yarn about it, I'll be thrilled. But in short, a system requires many parts. The universities just get the majority of the money and are the large players, but in actual fact, whether it's the Wānanga, whether it's Te Pūkenga, whether it's the schools who are providing trades academy options for us, and the PTEs, they all perform a really important role. Thanks, Jeremy.
Kia ora, Tim. I'm not sure if you can hear me through this,
I can hear you really well.
Excellent. So I've been in the careers and transition space for a number of years, and the biggest thing for us on the ground is the funding required in terms of tagging the likes of Gateway, the SIG grant, the staff funding, to ensure that we've got equitable access to all of these things you've outlined in the career system strategy. What are you doing about the funding to ensure that this happens so that our people on the ground can do the mahi to ensure that our ākonga have got successful pathways?
Kia ora.
And the other thing I wanted to add to that, sorry, a bit revved up, is...
No, that's great, fantastic.
I went to the Ministry of Education thing right here in Christchurch 3 years ago, where we looked at the education system for the first time in 30 years.
That's right.
And
Wow.
Inspiring Futures was introduced then. It's an antiquated UK model, which I don't think has really met the need for Aotearoa. And I wonder, when it's been rolled out, whether it's actually meeting the need. And so, two things there. What are you doing about funding? And what are you doing to ensure that the likes of Inspiring Futures are actually really focused in on the people that it's meant to be serving? Kia ora.
Kia ora. Okay, so what are we doing about funding? So, look, at a macro level, especially partially as a consequence of COVID, our funding has gone up from 3.2 to just under $4 billion. So across the system, more money is going into tertiary, without a doubt. I did want to call out for you, though, that foundation level education in particular, so all of the things that involve, the likes of the gateways, the youth guarantee, level 1 and 2 generally, the foundation level stuff that is providing the basis for people to then go on into higher level study or apprenticeships or whatever. We are waiting for the Ministry to do a review of foundation level education to be able to actually then look more specifically at the funding for it. I think I would feel compelled to comment that my sense is that there are far too many products in that foundation level space, and they are way over-regulated, far too focused on crossing T's and dotting lowercase j's than actually on the outcomes. And so my that the thrust of where I'd like to see that go is to have a far more, have a well-funded system, but have a more flexible system that actually allows people to actually do the work that is needed for the people in front of them, rather than some archetype that is actually written up in Wellington that doesn't exist. That'd be my comment on the first question. Look, on your second question is around is Inspiring the Future the right formula? Look, we found it in the UK, but it has been heavily modified to work in Aotearoa, and all the testing that we've done with the pilot schools has demonstrated that it works. The folks who are involved in that, the feedback that we've got from teachers and and especially from students and whānau, is that it is doing exactly a job of actually inspiring young kids to think beyond the things that they have otherwise seen. So, I mean, I've got to tell you, if you haven't been onto the Inspiring the Future website, I defy you to get on there, watch the 2-minute video on it, and not walk away with a tear in your eye. It is frankly inspiring, and having talked with role models who have done this, they are absolutely, thrilled to be involved and want to keep doing it, and we want to keep them supporting students and schools to do it. The key thing for us, in my view, is one, growing the number of role models. So my cunning game plan is to, as I talked about this with Nina over the week, is to get this guy as a bit of a role model, because I think, one, he's inspiring, but also it encourages the rest of us to actually get online, go through the process, and get in front of kids. But as teachers, one of the things that we've done there is we've really focused on making it super easy for actually teachers to do this without it making a back-breaking exercise. And the feedback that we've got from that has been pretty good. So if you want to know more about Inspiring the Future, also see the team. And if you've got some questions around how we could adjust it to actually work for you, then also please, because we're very happy to adjust and change. Kia ora.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Oh, sorry, one more.
Can't quite sneak away yet.
No, sorry.
No, it's not.
This is really a follow-on question around funding.
Yep.
Tim, you mentioned, and thank you for your presentation, you mentioned that TEC is coordinating a whole lot of activity, and you also mentioned the huge increase in the number of apprenticeships. My observation across the top of the south is a lot of that's been strongly supported by the additional funding via MSD for Apprenticeship Boost and those roles, so that business has been enabled to take on more apprentices, and some of the smart ones in the area where I am have taken on clusters of apprenticeships and then used that boost to hire another senior person to be the mentor and coach.
Right.
So that's one example of some really clever, creative use of funding. Yep. And another one is the interface with DOC and adventure tourism and Jobs for Nature. What do you see other opportunities like that coming in the future in terms of your leadership of this pull yourself together party across government and looking at how do we support funding and growth?
Isn't that the Gary McCormick party, the pull yourself together party? Yeah. It'd still get a vote, I reckon. Yeah. Just a comment, the number of apprentices was going up very significantly well before the Apprenticeship Booth Initiative. So I think that's just, ABI was brought in because of COVID, and we wanted to ensure that employers had the ability to retain apprentices whilst we're going through that period. Look, I'll be honest with you, I participate pretty much every other day in a budget conversation at the moment. Things are darn tight, and so ABI is due to conclude at the end of 2023. TTAF, another 4-letter acronym for you, Targeted Trades and Apprenticeship Fund, also due to finish the end of this year. We think it's clearly worked, but at the moment I think they have to be time limited. Otherwise, the incentive actually just becomes a crutch rather than an incentive. So we'll be watching it very, very closely. But at the moment, there's no plans to actually add more of those really large incentives into the system when for the most part what we can see is that it's not maxing out, but it's actually still continuing to increase quite happily by itself. So, but watch this space. I mean, I think one of the things that COVID did teach us is that not just in the funding sense, but in the ability to change, is that things that we otherwise might have thought would take 2 or 3 years to do, frankly, you can do them in weeks, as long as you've got the mindset to do so. So we'll be watching it very carefully.
Great. Thank you.